Alright, so now that we've sort of done a 1-point perspective, we can do a 2-point perspective. Now a 2-point perspective is similar to a 1-point in that there's a horizon line, and there's also a vanishing point, but instead of there being one vanishing point, like there is in the last example, there's 2 vanishing points. Right? The best way to kind of show it is looking at like the corner of something. Like, so let's say I was looking at the corner of this box. Okay. The top of the box here, and here, they go off in different directions. This one goes towards the left, this one is going towards the right. So they go off in the distance, but they go off to different directions. Okay, so in this example of this house, the horizon line for this house is probably about there, give or take. And then the vanishing points for the house are probably about there and probably there, these little blue dots. Maybe a little bit closer, maybe like there. And you can see that all of the lines in the sidewalks and in the side of the house, the roof of this house, they all go towards these vanishing points, whether it's the one on the left or the one on the right. Okay. Now, typically, vanishing points are usually very far away from each other. In real life, like, if there's a horizon line, the vanishing points are typically very far on the left and right. You don't normally have them very close. If you do put them very close, what'll happen is the object will kind of seem a little bit very skewed. So here, like, this is probably one of the vanishing points. This is the other. So like this line, these lines here are going to this point. These lines of the table, bed are going here. These are going towards there. Actually, these are going towards there. And these are going towards this one. It looks a little bit odd because the vanishing points are pretty close to one another. Like I said, in real life, vanishing points are very far. So typically, you have them very far from each other to create a more realistic environment. Here's another example of a 2-point perspective where here's the horizon line that runs through the middle of this city here, and there's a vanishing point all the way on the right, and there's a vanishing point all the way on the left. And then you can see that the lines here go towards that vanishing point. So the ones that go to the distance to the right go to this one, the ones that go to the distance to the left, so like all these lines here, on top of these buildings, all go towards this one. So let's try doing it ourselves. You can go to scene 2-point perspective in the scenes that I gave you. And what I'm going to do is, oops, I'm going to do that. You might want to set up a guideline to kind of represent your horizon line. This is going to be my horizon line here. And then I'll use it as a guide to kind of place my perspective points. So I'm going to use the perspective tool again. I'm going to click once on the left to create a vanishing point on the left, and then I'm going to click another one on the right. Notice that I put them pretty far away from each other. They're not even on the canvas, If you want to increase the number of guidelines, like rays, you just click and drag them out. Using this thing that kind of looks like 3 lines. Okay. If this starts getting confusing and you don't want to see all of the lines here, you actually can turn off the ones above the horizon line. Like this one, but we're not going to worry about that right now. So what I'm going to do is grab a brush, and I'm just going to build a big building. And this building's going to go off into the two directions. So I'm going to hold down the command or the control key to lock this line here to a perpendicular, 90-degree point like that. And then I'm going to use Option or Alt to go off to these vanishing points. So I'm going to hit Alt or Option, click, drag out. Option or Alt, click, drag out. Going back to my command or control to give me a nice perpendicular line. So this is a rectangle that's in perspective now. It looks like it's tilted, right? I can take this option and once again I'm dragging towards this horizon line, or sorry, this vanishing point. Hold down Option or Alt to go off to this vanishing point. Use the command key. Okay, so there's my simple building. Maybe I will add a door. So I want the door to come up to about there. So I'm going to use Command. Now, actually, I should probably use a thinner line just so like there's a little bit of weight to things. I want the building to feel heavier than the door. So once again, I'm using Control or Command. Use Option to go off into perspective. So even the top of this door goes off into the horizon, or to the vanishing point. Okay. There's the doorknob. That's really big. Let's do a little smaller. I don't know. I should probably have a really small brush, to be honest, to get a nice detailed. There you go. Much better. All right. Let's do a window. So I'm going to make this a little bigger. I'm just going to make one window that goes all the way across this front of this building, and I'm just going to do Command. So this will still be parallel with this line, these perpendicular lines to the page. Option or Alt to go off into perspective. Option or Alt. And clean this up with a nice little eraser tool. And I'm just going to draw some lines here. And this will also go in perspective. So, there's my windows. Perspective. This is a perpendicular line, and let's use Option or Alt. Go off in the direction. Go off in the direction, and then perpendicular line. Alright, so that just gives you kind of an idea. What else could we build? So like here, I could just keep doing this and building kind of shapes and sides that go towards different things. So, I don't know what I want to build. I'm going to build something like this that kind of, is a corner of a skyscraper. So this would be a perpendicular line like this. Can't really see it because it's going off of the page. But then, once again, Alt, and then Alt. So this is this other building. So I went like there, so I want to use Option or Alt, to go back towards the other line. Okay. And I can just keep building, and let's build a little street. So once again, that would be, the sidewalk, I should say. Here's the lines going off into the vanishing point. This could be like the corner of a street. This is like a telephone pole or something. Not a telephone pole, but I don't know, some sort of cross, like a street, like one of those signs where it says walk, don't walk or something. So, I mean, this is far from done, but you get the idea that I'm building a very simple two-point perspective here. Finally, we have a three-point perspective. A three-point perspective, like it sounds like, has 3 points, or 3 vanishing points, as opposed to 2. Essentially what it is, it's kind of a combination of a 2-point and a 1-point. So remember, 1 point, things went off into the distance towards the top or the bottom, right? 2-point meant things typically went to the left or to the right. So in 1 point, we had things that kind of, everything kind of goes off into the distance towards, to the top or the bottom. Here, for a 2-point, things kind of go off to the sides. A 3-point is kind of the middle point. It's kind of a combination of the both. The way to sort of think of it is an extreme shot up or down. So imagine you were looking at the top of a skyscraper from a helicopter. So the buildings themselves would be going off into, the tops of the buildings would be going off in 2-point perspective, one to the left and one to the right. But the depth of the building would be going into a 1-point, where it's going down or up. All right. So another way to look at it is kind of the opposite. Is if you were, let's imagine you were at the base of a really, really tall building. Like imagine you're in front of this, Empire State Building and just like look straight up. The sides, if you're at the corner of the building, the corners would be going off into 2-point, but the top of the building would be going off into 1-point. Okay. So like, here it's like these are going off into 2-point perspective, but then there's another point up here where these lines are going off into. Okay, so I'm going to make something that's let's make something kind of like this in our program, Tahoma2D, and I'm going to build something that was kind of like that Big Bend. So what I want to do is I'm going to make a vertical divider by using, and I'm going to make horizontal divider. So I'm going to make, like, this is going to be an extreme shot of like a building going up. Okay. And it's going to be at a corner. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to my perspective tool. I'm going to place one of my vanishing points up there, and I'm going to place the other two, let's say here and here. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw the sides of the building. So I'm going to start a little bit off from the center, and I'm going to use the Option key or the Alt key, and let's draw towards that vanishing point. All right, so this is like the top of the building. These are the lines going towards the building. And I'm going to draw another line that kind of goes following that perspective point. So these lines go up, but then the top of the buildings actually should go towards these, like the top here and going this way. So I'm going to start from here and do Option. And you can see I'm going towards those vanishing points. Okay. Actually, my perspective is a little bit off. This should actually meet up right there, and this should meet up there. All right, let's tidy this up. So all right, so this is be like looking up at my building. Okay. And this is like the top of the building. This would go off in that direction. This would go off in that direction. And if I was having, I'm going to make some thinner lines just to kind of add some depth. They would also go towards this perspective point because they're going up. Anything vertical should be going towards the top vanishing point. Anything going to the left or right should be going to the left or right vanishing point. All right, once again, not my best work per se, but you know, the point here is that I can quickly build something like a background, like a building, or something else that might be in 1-point, 2-point, or 3-point perspective, and be able to illustrate that really quickly. So once you try that out, animate the 2-point and the 3-point perspective.